Hello everybody, welcome to the class today. I'm really glad you joined me. I hope you did your homework from last week. I saw quite a few on the forum and yeah, looking very good. There are one or 2 points that we need to work on that I see the guys are battling with. So that's the first thing that we're going to do now. I'm going to show you how to fix those little sticking points, because I know it's things that people battle with all the time. So they're not unique little errors. Everybody was making pretty much the same mistakes because they're classic mistakes. So I'll show you how to fix that. So let's go over to my paper. What I've done is I've printed out one of our students' drawings. Let's zoom in there a bit. Alright, so the big thing is we've gone over here is this transition from the one color to the next. Now the way we get that right is using different pencils. So maybe you start off with your 2H in this area over here. Let's get to the ball that I did. Let's pop him down. Okay, so remember we start with our 2H over here, and then as we go further out this way, we go 2H, H, HB, B, 2B, 4B, and eventually even in here you'd end up with maybe a 4, 6, or even an 8B. Then the other thing that you need to do is you can also press lighter and lighter. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use one single pencil. So I'm going to start off with the 2H, rather start off too light. And I'm not pressing hard at all, it's absolutely the lightest touch. And I'm just going to go and add a little bit more tonal value right next to where that line ends, and then slightly over it. So I'm going to get a bit of an overlap going on there. And let's see if we can get rid of that line that we've got. So absolutely no pressure. So I'm moving roughly in the directions that we need to. Absolutely no pressure. I want to get just extra tonal value down there. And often you'll find just that little bit with this a lighter value will often be enough. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to gradually start pressing harder in this area over here. So I'm right next to that initial line, right next to it. Now remember, because I'm started off with a lighter pencil, I can go over this line, it's not going to darken it, no way. And I'm all the way down to a 2H pencil here. Now can you see how that line is already starting to disappear on me, just because I'm adding an in-between tonal value between there and there. And now as I go along, I can gradually press harder and harder. And as I come in back towards the light source, I'm pressing lighter and lighter. So I'm adjusting this just using pencil pressure. So I'm not using different pencils or anything, just pressures. But I'm never pressing so hard that I could not lift it up. If you feel you're going to start gouging the paper, it's better to go over then to a darker pencil. But can you see now how it's moved all nicely like that? That line of ours is already almost gone. So now I think that's about as far as I'm going to be able to take that guy. So now I'm going to go over to a bit of a darker pencil. So I've got an HB here now. So also again, I'm going to start in the darkest because I don't know how dark this pencil is going to actually turn out. So I'll start in the dark area and then I'll work my way into the lighter areas once I've got a feel for how dark this pencil is going to draw. And once I do have a feel, then I can gradually start pressing harder and harder. And as I move in towards the light source, I'm pressing softer and softer and softer. Okay, now we can go to a B. Again, we'll start here in the dark area and then move our way up. See how nice and smooth this ball's starting to look now? Alright. Then take a look and you see this edge over here is pretty much missing. It's absolutely lost. So I'm going to darken him just a little bit more. And so I'm all the way back to a 2H again. I'm just using that sharp edge just to define him nicely, because it is nice and round. To finish off a rounding, always just go slightly darker towards the, even here by this lightest edge. And can you see how much more definition it gives it? It just sort of, you know exactly where he ends. So unless your light is coming really directly from, say, the left or the top or the right, directly from overhead, always give yourself just that shorter little shading. Now you notice it's not anywhere near as dark here as, say, over there. Alright. So it's those transitions. So start off using the different pencils. And if that's using exactly the same pressure, so I'm not going to go press harder and harder with those different pencils. And if I get that full-on tonal value, that's great. If I can't, then I'll come back and I'll start pressing harder. This guy here is also, this reflected light is a little bit too... Reflected light is very subtle. I'm going to show you guys about reflected light shortly. So that was a 2H, and then let's do an HB. It's rather just, let's completely just soften that out. Okay, then I want to show you something. Sometimes you'll maybe do this. And you'd find that you have a little darker spot that shouldn't be there. Then what you will do is you take your blue tack or your kneadable eraser. So initially it'd probably be better to use your kneadable eraser because he doesn't lift off quite as much as the blue tack. Eh? Just form yourself a little point like this. And then you just gently just touch, just lightly tap that guy there where it's too dark. Just tap him like that. So all you're doing is just lifting up those little pieces of graphite in that area there. So because you made a little point, you can work pretty accurate. And when you're done, look there, that mark is gone. Okay. So you can do little, if you know, it often happens, you got a little imperfection on your paper and you get that little dark spot. And that's what you do to get rid of it. Alright, so I do have a little little exercise that you can do to practice this pressure thing of yours. And that's called an individual pencil tonal chart. And he looks like that. So let me show you how he works. Now what you do is you'd start off, say, with your 2H on the one side. So whatever pencils you got, you see I haven't marked them at the top here. So I'm going to write, you can do them with whatever pencil you want to. So I'm going to say 2H in that piece over there. And now in this top block, same as before with the regular tonal chart, I'm going to go as light as what I can. And just put a nice little even tonal value down there. So much so that you're probably not even going to see it on the video. Just enough to see the difference. So let me see if I can zoom in on that guy to give you a better view of what I'm doing. I think that should do the trick. So very, very light. Just a nice even little coloring going on there. You can even give it a little bit of a smudge like that if you wanted to. Okay, in the bottom block, what you're going to do is now you're going to press hard. Really, really hard. What you're trying to do is get this pencil to draw as dark as what it can possibly go. And these are going to be awesome. I know it's quite a bit of effort drawing these tonal charts and things. But I promise you, especially here in the beginning when you're still getting used to your pencils, you don't instinctively know how dark you can go with a pencil. So these tonal charts are going to help you a lot. So I'm pressing really hard just before I'm going to damage the paper. That's how hard I'm pressing here. In other words, this is, you'd never want to press quite as hard as what you're going to in this bottom block. That's how dark you're trying to get this thing to go. If you do even damage the paper ever so slightly in this bottom block, that's fine. Okay, so now what you can do is in this block here, you want to shade from that through to that. And there's using this one single pencil. So there's only one way to do that, and that's pencil pressure. So that's going to, with the previous one we were more concerned about using different pencils. With this guy over here, it's all about the pressure that you're applying on the pencil. So two completely different exercises. So I'm going to just do an initial one. Now rather go too light too quickly, because it's easy to darken it again. Not necessarily that easy to darken him up, or lighten him up, sorry. So here I'm not getting quite as dark as I wanted, or as it can go, so I'm going to go in the opposite direction. And as we go across, we press lighter and lighter and lighter. By the time I get to here, I'm almost using a feather-light touch already. And when I get here to the end, I'm almost not even touching the paper. so light I'm pressing. Okay, so you can do that, and now you mark each of your blocks. So there I've got 2H, so there I'd maybe go H, HB, B, 2B, 4B, 6B, 8B. So I've left a space for enough pencils, and that's an awesome little exercise. Okay. Alright, then for today, what I want us to chat about is how the light affects the objects that we see. So let's maybe just go back to there for a minute. Light and the objects around. Let's say, for example, you're drawing the ball that we've been doing now. The light in the room or in the area that it's in affects how we see that ball. Also, the objects around it also affect how we see that ball and how the light bounces off that object. So those are the things I want to show you today. So what I've done is I've got myself some, went to the craft shop and I've got a few little balls like this. So let's see if we can get them to stand still long enough so that we can look at them. So I'll use a little bit of blue tack and hopefully it'll stand still long enough for me, like that. Alright, let's take a look at that guy over there. So let's flip over to here. Okay, so as you can see, the light is coming from the right hand side. Now what happens with an object is all the surfaces on the object that are pointing directly to the light will show at their brightest. Objects that are pointing furthest away from the light will be at their darkest. Simply because you've got more light or less light physically reaching that object, and that's what's happening. So for example, over here, let me see if I can point without affecting the light itself. So over here like this is pointing closest to the light source or more directly towards the light source. So he's the brightest because he's catching the most sunlight and he's catching the sunlight flat or face on, flat on. Everything from here is going darker that way. Can you see that? I mean, if I had to take a snap, a thumbnail of that tonal value or that color there and that color there, definitely darker, hey? And now look what's happening as we go around. It's gradually getting darker and darker and darker. So this here is the darkest point that we can see, is this edge over here. But going further around behind where we can't see, he's actually getting even darker. Now the way he's going to be at his darkest is, I don't know if it's going to show on the video, but directly, because our light's coming from this direction here like this, so directly on the opposite side over here underneath there is where he's going to be at his darkest. So always remember that, because that there may be a round ball, it's easy to see. But now let's take a look at another object. Let's see, what have I got here? Yeah, I've got a banana. Let's pop him down there. Alright, so now you can see what's happening with this banana. You've got different sort of angles to it. We've got this flattish edge over here, this flattish edge over here, this flattish edge over here. You can't see it, but there's another one underneath there. Maybe I can try and get to him with another camera. Let's see what we can do there. Okay, so we've got another guy underneath there and another one underneath there. So let's go back to this one for a second. So let's take a look and see what happens. This guy here, he's pointing slightly up. He's almost not quite pointing directly to the sunlight, but he's pointing. He's the angle that's pointing most towards the sunlight. He's pointing less towards the sunlight, so can you see his tonal value overall is darker than this guy over here. And then this guy here is pointing even less towards the sunlight, and then here at the back there's another dude that's pointing even less towards the sunlight, so he's even darker. Let's take a look at him from overhead as well. There you can now really see the three different tonal values. 1, 2, 3, and you can see a bit of that back edge over there. Can you see how much darker he is? Look at that. Alright. Go back to here again. Okay, so our sun is now coming from that direction over there. So can you now see that this, just on this little flat piece over here, this piece here is darker than that piece there, simply because this guy is pointing more towards the light, and as this banana curls around, it's catching less and less and less sunlight. So eventually you're going to find that this guy here would maybe be the same tonal value as that area over there, because this area is pointing the same away, or same, how would you say, the same amount away from the light as, say, that guy over there. So they end up being the same tonal value. So it's quite interesting, because you're so used to seeing a banana and he's yellow and he's got all sorts of little blemishes and black marks and whatever have you on it. But now if you take a look at the object itself, just colorless, so you're purely seeing those tonal values. Can you see how important your tonal values are? I've got absolutely no color there, I've got no details or anything, but I've got my tonal values and I can 100% see that object's shape. And that's really, really important to realize. If you're not getting those tonal values, if you're not drawing them in, you're not showing them correctly, you're never going to get the shape that you need, that you're trying to show. It'll always look flat. So let's say, for example, this guy here, this area isn't the lightest. You've made this whole piece over here, this whole, that whole flat edge over there, if you made him all the same tonal value all the way through, or you've made this and this and this area here all the same tonal value, because all that's sort of physically closer to the light, and maybe this side here you've made all dark, the same darkness, it maybe look curling in the one direction, but it'll never look 3D. Okay? And that's what I'm trying to show you, is that without these tonal values, you're never going to get a three-dimensional effect. Let's go and take a look at one that's even more complex. So there I've got some corn. How can I put him? Let's see, shows the best. Like that. Look at all those tonal value changes on this little piece of corn. Each little pip has got his own highlight, his own shadow, and his own little shading. The overall, this piece here is closer to pointing more to the light, going darker towards that direction, and a little bit darker towards that direction. He's also curving in around there like that, so that is pointing more towards the light. This whole flat area here is going to sort of a same tonal value, and then as it curls around here, it curls more away from the light. This little piece at the back there, you see he's got his own little shading going on, because that there's pointing more towards the light, less towards the light as he goes around that way, and he goes around that way. But you have to realize, look here, this guy is not pointing as much towards the light as this guy, so even though that's a highlight there, that highlight isn't as bright as that guy, because he's still not catching he's not catching as much sunlight. So you have to realize that. And that's a classic mistake that guys make, is they'll make this, because this is a highlight, okay, so that's a highlight, and oh yeah, I see a highlight as well, so make them the same tonal value. That's not correct. You have to really look carefully and find the correct tonal value. Like, after a while your eyes get trained, and that's all good. But before your eyes get trained, we need to use little tricks to see those tonal values. And the way we do it is like this. Remember our tonal chart we drew last week? It would look something like this. This one I've laminated to protect him. So let's see, maybe we can zoom out. So you remember him? So what you would do is you'd laminate your tonal chart once you're happy with it, and then you slice off this edge over here using your steel ruler and your craft knife, so that we don't have this little piece of paper over here. This is exposed, or you can get that right next to the piece of paper. So what I'm going to do is, let's see if I do have one here that's already been cut. So there he is. So I've lobbed this edge off. So you end up with a tonal chart that looks like this. So can you see what you can do now? You can take, let's go and zoom in again. Let's see what's the best angle to zoom in at. Let's do that. Alright, so now you can take your tonal chart. Let's see. I've got this. So let's say I'm shading this little back edge over here. So now I want to find out what tonal value it is. So I'm taking my tonal chart. I'll start here by the lightest, and I'm just comparing tonal values. So too light on my tonal chart. Too light. Seems to be around here. So what I'm looking for is when this little line in between there and there sort of disappears and fades away and becomes one. So let's just check it. See, there's definitely too dark. I can see a line again. There's a definite line between those two over there. Let's see, there and there. So let's push him back. The tonal value seems to disappear around there, right? And from here becomes lighter again. So I'm looking at roughly this area over here. Okay, so I'm going to keep my pencil on there. And let's go back to here. Let's see what I'm doing. I can follow the trail and go up to here, and I know I was using my H pencil in that area. So that's the pencil to use over there. And because he was on this side of the H, remember he was over there like that. So I know I'm going to use the H pencil, and I'll probably have to apply just a little bit more pressure, because if it was over here, then I have to still use my H, but I'd have to press lighter. So can you see how your tonal chart is going to help you here in the beginning? It's not only going to tell you which pencil to use, it's going to tell you how much pressure to apply to the pencil at the same time. Okay. Right, so there's some really valuable lessons there. The next thing we need to look at is reflected light. So let's dump the corn again and bring our little polystyrene balls back into play. I'll put the one down here and stick him in place. So now I'm going to just adjust the camera angle here again. So let's go to here. So I'm looking at now from more from the side. So our sun's coming sort of from the front and from the right hand side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some colored cards. So I know in pencil drawing we don't use colors, but remember colors are tonal values. So let's maybe do this. Let's say this guy was standing on a green card or a green tablecloth or something like that. Can you see the green? The underside of the ball looks decidedly green at the moment. See if we can zoom in to see it a bit better. Can you see that? Maybe we can take another card. Let's maybe take, say, a red. And let's stick another ball to there. To the red card. So I'm just quickly doing that off camera. Right. And let's see if we can swap them. Can you see how this underside over here definitely looks red. And let's see. The other side. Definitely green over there, eh? Definitely red over there. And that's because of reflected light. What happens here is that your light comes along. Zoom out a bit again. Your light comes along. So here's my beam of light. It's traveling along, traveling along, traveling along. So yes, he's hitting the ball as well, but he's also hitting the tablecloth. And when he hits the tablecloth, he then bounces up off and hits the underside of the ball, because that's now sort of in that beam of light's way. So you always got to look around and see what's around stuff, because let's face it, let's take him off, pop him back there on the white. Don't you agree with me? That underside there of that ball is darker than this one now, because we've got a darker light that's reflecting off onto that, and the green is a darker tonal value than the white tablecloth. So the underside of that guy, his tonal value is going to be, if I were to turn this whole scene here into a black and white, that's going to be darker than that guy over there. And the same with the objects around it. See what happens? The minute I bring this other ball in, the light's hitting this ball, and it's bouncing off this ball and knocking that one. And look at this lovely little highlight we're getting here in the shadow area. Look at that. And as I move this ball around, it's changing. Now what's really important to notice or to realize is that these reflected lights affect the darker areas or the shadowy areas of an object. Let me see if I can demonstrate that. And zoom way in over there. Right, so let's use, say, this red card that we can move. So bring him in. Can you see how he's changed to red as I brought him in right in underneath? Now he's most red underneath there, eh? You think, okay, that's because he's closest over there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this card upwards, still touching the ball. And now see that red is gradually disappearing. Here by the highlight, there's no reflected light there by the highlight. As I go up, get a little bit, not much, eh? So underneath, there where it's at its darkest, we're getting the most reflected light, and as we get up here, it gets lighter and lighter. The reason for that is, underneath here, remember we've got less light. So this reflected light is actually more light than what there is underneath the ball. So that's why we see it. But as we get up here, the physical light source's light is brighter than my reflected light, and it overpowers it, so you don't see the reflected light. Okay. Okay, so today what we're going to do is I like us to always put what we've done into practice. So we're going to draw a scene that has got all these features in it. So I'm just resetting my cameras here, give me a sec. That should be it there. Alright, so let's put all these goodies away now. So why have I gone through all this trouble to show you all this stuff? The reason is, if you want to be able to draw realistically, and with pencil drawing, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to draw realistically. It's the one medium where it's easy to be able to draw realistically. We're done with those, we can pop them one side. It's the one medium that it's easy for us to draw realistically. So that's our whole deal. If you don't know how light affects stuff, I promise you there's no way that you're going to be able to draw realistically. You can try and try and try as much as you like. It's just simply not going to come right, because you're going to look at something and just think you know what you see, but you're not seeing it correctly. But if you understand what you're seeing, then sometimes when you can't see something, you'll actually be able to figure it out for yourself, and that makes drawing A, so much easier, B, it makes your whole life easier, because you understand what you're doing. Alright, so this is what we've got. I've taken a spoon, this dude over here, and I've just popped him down on the table, and I've taken a photograph. So can you see what's happening? We've got all the turns going on. So this piece here is closer to the light, he's brighter. This piece here is pointing more away from the light, because remember he's now concave. So he's opposite. If I turn him around, he's lighter because he's closer to the light. He's darker because he's further away from the light. So, plus this thing's got all sorts of reflections and stuff going on as well. So that's why I've chosen him. It's a great way to learn how to. And you've got subtle little shadings and changes in the. Let's put that over there. So you've got those subtle little shadings that you need to do, and that means you need control over your pencil to get all these little subtle shadings. Alright, so I'm going to zoom in as much as I can to this. So for initially, I am going to give you a template for this guy. For quite a few lessons, we're going to we're going to be using templates. I don't want us to start drawing freehand when we don't even know how to use our pencils yet. You've got to take things one step at a time. Alright, so this is what we've got. So your template that I'm going to give you looks like that. So now we need to take this and we need to be able to transfer it onto our final drawing paper, right? So this is what you do to do that. You take this template of yours and you turn him upside down. And now you can see the lines through it, but if you can't, then just hold it up to a window. And then you will be able to see the lines through it. Then you take a really soft pencil, so I've got a 6B here. And then I'm going to turn him sideways a little bit. Now all you do is you just scratch over these, wherever there's lines that you need to transfer to your final drawing. You scratch over it like this. See that? So it doesn't take you too long to do this. The softer the pencil you use over here, the easier these lines transfer afterwards. So 6B, 8B, in a pinch you can use the 4B or a 2B, but ideally you can use a nice soft pencil like a 6B or so. Alright, so now you can take your drawing paper and just line them up. Like this. Now I can put him down. And now I could take a harder pencil, say an HB. So I think I'll use a round point, just the standard sharpened round point for this guy. And I hold him in place, make sure that they're not going to move. So that's why I like to, when I'm making these printouts like this, they're on exactly the same piece of, same size paper, so it's easy for me to line them up. So that if he does move, you've got him in exactly the correct place. Like that. Alright, so there's another way of doing it, is you can take some masking tape. Then you can stick your initial paper down. I'll just take two pieces of masking tape like this, stick the one down over there, and over there. Then you do the same with this guy. So you line him up, stick him down, put two pieces of masking tape over there. So then what happens is this guy then forms a hinge like this. And then you can lift it up and you can check to see whether your drawing is coming through on the other side or not. I think what I'll do is, let me just make sure I've got this guy lined up nicely with to fit inside the camera. I don't have to keep changing camera angles. Seems to be about like that. Alright, so now I'm going to just trace this guy all the way around like this. So now to do this and make sure you haven't missed any lines, you can use a different color. You can even use a pen, because maybe you're drawing on your template and you're not drawing on the actual drawing itself. But now what you do is you can also just use your hinge and do that. So now I'm going to purposefully forget a line. I'll show you how you're going to spot it. We got that. To spot if you've missed something, what you do is you take your paper on the hinge and you just flip it backwards and forwards like this. So I'll zoom in on that area that I'm working in, so you can see it. So just keep your eye. I've drawn this area and I want to make sure I've drawn all those lines. So now I'm going to flip my template, keeping it in place on that hinge, just flip it backwards and forwards like this. So by keeping my eye on that one spot, I can immediately see that I've missed this little line over here. See that? And you see that by keeping your eye on that one spot. Okay. Alright, so just to save us time, I have got a template already. It's been drawn out. So I'll just be using that. So obviously I will give you the template and the reference picture, so you can work from that. There. Let's stick this guy down. Now where on earth you think, oh my goodness, where do I start with a drawing like this? Take a look at the picture. Okay, like that. And see which piece to you looks the easiest. And then you start there. So if I look at this guy, this here looks pretty intricate and stuff, eh? So obviously this area here looks the easiest to me. So that's where I'm going to start. So the first thing we need to do is take a look and see where's our lightest tonal value. So our lightest tonal value is just this little tiny speck. If we look at this front little piece of the spoon, just this tiny little speck over there. So that's probably something that we could hopefully lift out. So if I look at the rest of the tonal values and maybe go to our tonal chart and see. So we're probably looking at tonal values around here, and that's going to give us about a 2B. So I'm going to use a 2B in that area here, then it means I can go about probably 4B, and that's pretty dark over there. We can go 6B. And then this little edging over there, we've got to go lighter and lighter and lighter, or a little bit of a shading over there, lighter to there, really dark over there, and lighter as we go around. But I think we'll cross that bridge as we get there. Let's do this little inside piece over here for a start. What we can do is, if I do that, see if I can get us to there. There we can see both at the same time, eh? So I always start off with the lightest that I've got. And the lightest that I've got is my 2H. So I'll first just lay down that initial layer. There, I know my highlight is around that area there somewhere. So I'll start off just looking for the lightest value. So I've just marked off that little highlight. So I won't necessarily avoid it, but what I will do is I'll just make sure that I don't go really dark in that area there. Remember, because we use as little pressure as what we have to. We'd rather first go darker with a pencil than actually we use a darker pencil than actually press harder. So I'm just holding the pencil absolutely flat, and I'm using one of my chisel points. I'm doing a flat area of shading now, so I'm using the chisel point. I'm just going to lay myself besides that little lightest little highlight over there, I'm laying down my lightest tonal value, because nothing over here is white. So I'm not worrying about the ridge, I'm just worrying about the inside of the spoon. Nice even little shading. So at this point you may not even see anything going on there. So that's fine, you know it's not white. Alright, so now let's just take one little piece at a time. For example, we can take this area over here, and let's just concentrate on that little area. That's all we need to do. Just do that. Forget about the rest. In other words, we're breaking it down into little bite-sized chunks. So I can see he's light in this area over here. He's gradually getting darker to there, and he seems to have little patches of even darker, say around this area over here. I'm still with the 2H. And I'm just looking for those changes in tonal value. So I'm going to use different pressures now in this area. To get those tonal values right for myself. Almost right up to the edge, a little bit darker over here again. So the minute I feel I'm starting to press really hard, then I'll stop and I'll go over to an H pencil. Instantly I'm back to the lightest pressure I can possibly apply, just to first see how dark this H pencil is. Get a feel for how much tonal value is going to lay down for me. So I think at that point, this is probably about as far as we're going to go. With him. Right, so now we'll move down to the next sort of row. Let's go over here. So I do see little changes in tonal value going on over there like that, but I think we'll worry about those guys later. Let's just get that general tonal value in. So how do you ignore that? You look at this sort of through your eyelashes, and that just takes away all that that detail. So I know I'm going to go darker than this over here immediately, so I'm not going to change pencil, so I'll stick with my 2H, or my H, sorry, and I'll start laying in this tonal value over here. Because that's my lightest tonal value in this area. And as usual, you see I'm starting in this darker area, because I'd rather make sure he's too light in the dark area than too dark in the light area. As we come around, he's also gradually getting lighter and lighter. So as our sun's coming from the right hand side in this drawing. So as he's coming around to here, he's getting lighter and lighter. As the spoon curls up, it points more and more and more towards the sun. Now, you will notice that I've drawn my my little construction lines. I have drawn them darker than what they should be, simply so that you can see them on the camera. This little area seems to be even darker than the rest, and it's not getting dark enough for me anymore. So now I'm going to have to go over to my HB pencil. So HB pencil, it's a new pencil, and you're wanting to go darker, so that means initially you're going to start off with a nice little feather-like touch. Then we can gradually press harder. This is harder over here again. Okay, so to get those little details in there, now you're going to just take your kneadable eraser, pinch yourself a little point, and just gently lift out those little details there. So we're using the kneadable eraser as opposed to, say, the blue tack, because we just want to lift out just a little bit at a time. Here it sort of fades away, but now obviously I've got my darker pencil lines, so all I can really do is just fade that out, just so that that line is not so obvious. All along here it's quite a sharp line, so I think I'll leave him quite sharp there. I'm happy with that. Okay, then we've got this little lighter gap, and then it goes darker. So I'm going to start with, say, an HB. And here's also like a little lighter area. I think that little lighter area we can also we'll lift that out. But I'll start off with an HB. Let's first just get some tonal value going down here. And let's establish that little lighter line there. So it gets thinner and thinner and thinner. Right against that is at its darkest. Just quite a sharp line. So obviously this is just like a reflection. So to get these nice even shadings, can you see what I'm doing? I'm actually overlapping the one stroke from the next. Each one is overlapping the previous. That's quite important. I'm not going to worry about this guy over here. I think that's again, that's just something that we can lift out with the kneadable eraser. Most of those we can lift out, even that other little highlight over there in this area. I think we'll just lift him out. That other line, I think I will try and, it's easy for me to avoid him because he's a nice straight line. So this is probably about my lightest tonal value in this area here. So now we can gradually start going darker. So I'll go over to a 2B pencil. Again, light little touch. So I don't think he's quite doing the trick, so I'm going to go over to a 4B. As I can feel with my 2B, I was going to have to start pressing too hard. I don't want to press hard. So this is my 4B. So I'd rather go over to a darker pencil before I start pressing hard. If pressing, if the darker pencil is not doing it, then I could even come back down to a lighter pencil, but then I can start pressing harder. And over here, I think we may even be able to start defining that little edge over there. He's quite straight, so it's possible for us to define him. Now, if you don't get these little highlights and things in exactly the correct space, don't panic. You move ever so slightly, you turn the spoon ever so slightly, the sun goes, if you come back 5 minutes later, all these reflections have all changed. They've all moved to different places. But you will find, however, that these will, because of the shape of the spoon and because of the surroundings, your the directions that these reflections and things are in will tend to follow a certain direction. And that's all because of the shape. So if you get these directions right, then you're A for away. Okay, so I can see here I'm also not quite as dark as what I need to be yet. So I will keep checking what I've already done. Area is also still too light. Keep checking what you've done beforehand, because when you, especially in the beginning, so when you first start off, you don't have anything on the paper, and you've got just white paper. So everything, absolutely everything that you put down looks dark. But now, as you go along, you can come back and start increasing those tonal values, because you start spotting the correct tonal values better as well. Okay, it's really dark over here again. It's going slightly lighter in this area. Over there, it does go slightly lighter, so I will leave it a little bit lighter. I think at this point I'm happy with that. Leave him there, so now we can go all the way back down to for this area over here, I'm going to go all the way back down to a 2H again. Okay, so let's start with this little bit over here. He seems to be darker than the rest, so we'll get our tonal value right over there. So this is all about observation. That's over there. We've got this little darker patch over here. Right, so now I'm going to go back to an HB, because I can see in this area here, this little dark bit is darkest over here. And it's also darkest over there. So it sort of starts off dark here, and then a little shading from dark here to lighter there. Very careful observation this, eh? And here it just sort of fades away. So because I've got a hard line, I'm going to have to just soften myself over that line. I might actually even go just a little bit darker, just so that we can lose that line a bit. I'll have to just use my artist license to increase that contrast. Okay. And now let's look at this area over here. So I'm just looking little pieces at a time. So this area here is darker, and then it goes lighter to there. Again, it's very gentle. And this here is not a hard line. So as I'm going along, see I'm spotting those tonal values better. I can now see that this area here is still too light. There's definitely no light line over there. This here is also still a little bit too light. So I think here we've got a total value change, but it's not quite such a huge change as what we've got him. So I'm going over that ever so slightly too. Just to darken him up there a little bit. Okay, I think let's work on this little edge over there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see where's he at his darkest. And that seems to be around this area over here. And I do have that little highlight on that little edge. You see that? There's a little highlight over there. So I'm going to have to be careful not to lose that highlight. So for that I'm going to have to work really carefully. Really dark right up to the edge. So I've turned my chisel point so I'm drawing with a sharp edge of him. That. So as we go around here, he's getting lighter and lighter, and that light area is becoming broader and broader as well. So there's a little bit of pencil that doesn't belong there. So I'm using my blue tack, and I'm going to just lift it out. Here I went over the line, over there. And over here as well, a little bit of a zigzaggy, went slightly over the line, so I can lift that out. Just to straighten him a bit better. So you can start, say, with your H. What is your H over here? And then as we go along, gradually start darkening up. So you go to an HB, eventually till you get, say, over here, then you can start using a B, 2B, 4B even, to get that real dark. So I'm just gradually shading him like that. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to come back and just sharpen this top, the dark edge over there. So I'll use, say, a 4B, and I'll use that sharp edge of the chisel point. And I'm going to push that line so it is nice and sharp and even and round, like that. So that sharp line gives me the edge that I need. Alright, so let's do the same thing in this direction over here. Now can you see? Our light's coming from the right hand side. So this edge, let's go back to here. So this edge here is the brightest because it's pointing most towards the light. Going darker. And then even as it curls around there, is going darker. So I suspect this here is darkest because there was something reflecting in it. Something dark. as we go around there, and here seems slightly lighter, so it's obviously had a little bit of reflected light of something over there. So we'll start over here. So I've got to take a look at my tonal value. That tonal value is definitely darker than the top of the spoon, so I have to start off darker. And I've got to have a sharp edge over here, otherwise I'm not going to see that corner. Make sure I've got a nice little sharp edge over there. And as we come around, it is going lighter. This, and then from here is also going lighter to meet that guy. So let's take a look and see where's that little bright edge as well. So we're going to work him into. Like that. Right, so now that I've got that dark in, I can see that this piece here is not quite dark enough yet. So I'm gone over back to a 2H, just darkening that up. Just getting these tonal values right over here. Again, he's darker over here. He shades inwards. And then this edge over here is also not quite a hard line. So I'm going to soften this edge up over here. It's a hard-ish line. That, and now I'll use my kneadable eraser. Let's lift out this little highlight that's running up along the, like that. Here's a little bit too bright. It's not quite as bright as that. See there? I think now we've got a good tonal value going on over there. And I'll take a look under here. It's actually got quite a dark little edging over there. So let's say use an HB. And just using that chisel point to give me a nice fine line. And that edges that off nicely like that. Okay, now we can go to this area over here. I'm actually going to go to this camera over here. No, it's not working. Let's stick to that. Alright, so this little piece over here is lighter than that. So I'm going to just lay in again just this basic tonal value. So I'm using my 2H pencil. Because this area is not white, it's definitely got some tonal value there. So I'll just lay that initial tonal value down, and you see I'm going way over to the left and to the right. It doesn't matter, because those areas are darker, it's just going to disappear anyway, so that's fine. And let's see, this guy here doesn't just end the ends, he sort of just fades away there. So I'm going to just do a little mini shading there. So that fades away there. This guy here ends quite, it does end in a definite little edge over there, so that's fine, I'm happy with him. So over here it's roughly the same, it's slightly darker in here. And then over here, look carefully and you'll see there's a little bit of reflected light, so that's the lightest area that I can see in this surface. So we'll start off with this whole area here with a 2H. And now the rest is quite dark, so I think I'll immediately go over to an HB. And let's get ourselves that basic tonal value down there. So here we've got quite a sharp edge again, because that sharp edge gives us the distance between the table and the spoon, that height there. So make sure you get that edge nice and sharp. So again, we've got this guy here, it's not a sharp edge, so just fade him out. Fade him away there like that. We're getting lighter and lighter with your pencil. So you'd either go to a lighter pencil or you press lighter. Alright, so let's take a look. This is not a perfectly flat surface, so this is a little bit indented over here. So this area is darker. And this edge, and it goes gradually a little bit lighter to this top edge over here, and that shows us that indentation. Again, this bottom little line over here has got to be sharp, because that gives us that change in angle from the top and the side. So I think I'll go over to a B. I'm not quite getting as dark over here as what it needs to be, so time to change the pencil. Now you see I'm avoiding this area over here, because there I need to do some shading to get that reflected light in. So I'll just avoid that area there for now. As I go to this top edge, I'm pressing lighter and lighter. Alright, so let's see what's happening over here. Definite little change in tonal value between there and the spoon itself and the curl. And then that just goes light over there. So what you can do is, even if you go too dark, that's fine. You come back with your kneadable eraser, and then I see there is a little shadow underneath there, so I will put that shadow in. So now we can come back with our kneadable eraser, and I'll just make a tiny little point like that. Start with the lightest area, just gently, just gently just tap it out. Like that, and that's going to show us that little reflected light there in the end of the day. So you're basically doing a little shading using your eraser. Okay, so this little area is not quite dark enough yet. I think I'll leave him at that for now. Okay, let's take a look at this edge. So again, he's quite dark, so I think I'll stick with the same pencil. What is it, 2B? No, he's too dark. Okay, let's go back to an H. I'd rather go too light. And let's just lay this basic little tonal value down there. Now what's really important is that we keep that little edge. You must see that little edge over there. Even if you have to come back, say with your blue tack, and now I'm going to squeeze myself a real sharp little chisel point over there. Really give it a good old squeeze. So you want that as thin as you can. And just come back in and just tap, tap, tap along on the line. And that'll lift all that graphite up over there, and that'll give us just a little reflection, a bright little highlight piece, like that. I'll come back in there next to it with that guy, and then say with a 4B, just on the other side of that. Very gentle, just making sure that little highlight stands out. Alright, so let's go back to a B pencil and let's take a look. It's definitely darker on this underside over here, so we can darken that up. Just to the chisel point, very gentle, absolutely no pressure involved here. I'm letting the pencil do all the work for me. And let's see, still here is a little bit of shading over there. It's not just dark and then that's it. It stops, it fades lighter and lighter until it meets this tonal value. And we've got that darker edge over here, still running all the way down here, like that. Yeah, I've actually gone over just to a sharper point pencil. And it is an 8B, but I'm using it very, very lightly. I'm just making sure I'm getting that sharp edge. Can you see now, because I've got that nice contrast between there and there, now I've got a lovely little edge over there. And that just defines the one side to the next. Alrighty, so here we're getting to some real interesting bits, eh? Because now we've got all these little ornate curly pieces. So So here we're going to have to really observe carefully. To make sure we get this right. So let's see if I can zoom in over there a little bit more. So look what happens on this piece. Inside you get dark bits like there because the light can't get in there. You see that? But then it's a tube. Or same as the ball, you've got little areas that are pointing towards the light, or the banana is probably our better example, eh? And as you see, our banana was lying there like this in exactly the same direction. So we got that highlight going darker and darker, darker and darker. But also this direction like this as well. So it's highlight going darker as it curls underneath, and darker as it curls around that way. So you have to keep that in mind. So what I'll do is I'll start off and just put in these little dark areas. So let's say I'm going to take, say, just a 4B for now, and I'll put in like little dark areas like this just to get those darks in, and that gives me some contrast to compare from. So let's go back to here. So like this area over here is dark. And feather light touch, I must be able to lift that out if I haven't got it quite right. Okay, in this area over here is also quite dark. Feather light touch, I'm letting the darkness or the softness of the pencil do the work for me. Absolutely no pressure. I still need to be able to do blending or lifting out or whatever. Just gives me that, just a little bit of darkness over there. Alright, now I'm going to just take a look at the lightest tonal value. So I'm going to use my 2H, and I'm just going to lay down a little bit of tonal value because I can see there's nothing as spider white there. Absolutely nothing. So I'll lay this whole thing down here as tonal value. So I don't care about the spirals or nothing. So all I'm doing is I'm making sure I can immediately see him off the background. Now what I am going to do, because I'm right-handed and I'm now working over that front piece of the spoon. Let's zoom out over here. Because I'm now working over that piece of the spoon, I'm going to take a neat piece of paper, a clean piece of paper, and just lay him down there like that. So now my hand is pressing on there and I'm not going to dirty all my hard work. Yes, we've got that. And then this guy. So I think I'll just do to this piece over here. That should be enough to give you a feel for how we do these little curls. You're about to do the back one on your own. Are you starting to see how, or notice how I'm able to see those different tonal values and things? So I'm not only just spotting them through observation, I'm figuring them out as well, so that I know where they should be, and that helps me look out for them and know where they're going to be. All right. Now, when you're starting with something like this, just start anywhere. Again, start with whatever you feel is the easiest. So let's maybe just do, say, that guy over there. So just look carefully and see where's the darkest. So I'm still with my 2H pencil. So see, this is a darker area over here. I'm clearly not going dark enough, but that's fine. Rather start off too light and then he's dark over here on this side. This. And the same thing with this guy over here. So while I'm spotting him, I know that the guy next to him is going to be exactly the same because they look the same. So I might as well do both at the same time and that'll save me some hassles. Alright, so let's go over to HB. Again, we start off at the darkest edge. And I'll gradually work our way darker. And now we can also see it's darker in this little, there he goes in there. It's quite dark. And it quickly fades lighter. Very quickly fades lighter. So I'm actually using my 2H over there now to fade that lighter. Now between this guy and that guy, we're going to have a bit of a little bit of a found line, so a little bit of a sharp line there, and that'll just give us that depth. So this left hand piece of wire is going to start off dark and quickly fade lighter, and this edge over here is actually going to be a bit lighter. Because our sun's coming from the right hand side, he's picking up just that little bit of reflected light. And that's what's happening there. The same over here on this little piece. Can you see it's actually lighter over there? So that's not reflected light though, that's just normal light. But because he's pointing more towards the light, it's a little brighter. So just gradually build up those tonal values. Here again, as he curls inwards over there, he goes darker. And then he quickly fades himself lighter as he comes up and out of that little, what would you call it, a valley? I keep going darker and darker and darker until I get my tonal values correct. There we go over to a B over here now. So it's quite very fine, this. Small little area that we're doing all the shading in. Okay, now we can move over to this side over here. It's quite dark on this edge. That. Then it goes around here like that. As it goes down here inside this dark area. And this darkness sort of just, as he comes up, catches more and more light, so he fades himself lighter and lighter. Can you see how he's starting to look around? So we're getting there. I think now we can go quite dark in that little, in those little crevices. Nice and dark now. So at the moment I'm using a 2B, but I'm pressing pretty hard. Alright, so now I'm going to use my blue tack, and I'm just going to lift back this little highlight over here on each one of these guys, just with a chisel point. This blue tack allows me to go all the way back to white. So it gives me full contrast over there. And that makes him look nice and shiny. As he calls in underneath, he also goes a little bit darker. And I don't panic if you lift out the highlight too wide, then you just go and push him back. Like that. Alright, so now when you get to these guys over here, it's just more of the same. More of the same. Just do a little piece at a time. Find those highlights. Find those little going in bits that go darker and so on. Really dark in there. Really dark in there. Now a nice way to see these fine little changes and things is to actually draw from the photograph on your computer. So use the actual file and open that guy up. And that'll allow you to just zoom in and out and stuff like that. And have a closer peep. You can see if you're on the right track or not. Here it's quite interesting. Let me actually zoom in over there. That's quite important to get that, to be able to get this piece right. There's a little curl. Let me go over to the photograph for a sec. I'll show you what happens. Over here, you see this little darker bit starts off thin, it becomes broader, and then it moves to the other side, and it goes thinner again. So you've got a highlight which is going thinner and thinner and thinner, and disappears over there. So look out for that, dark, broader, and then he flips himself over to the other side. That's going to be critical for you to be able to get that curl to look realistic. So we've got this little dark bit over here, and going thinner over there, thinner and thinner. And as it comes around here, it's going broader, like that. Until he meets the other side, and then it goes thinner and thinner again. Like that. Let's see, go back to a 2H here, because now we're heading back to a highlighty area. So we've got that little highlight over there, in this area. Yeah, so the same thing is going to happen over here. Dark on that edge, and then this little dark bit flips over. Same as what he did over there. And here we've got that little bit of a highlight on that tip piece. Okay, back to the 2H just to get these tonal values in over here and get them right, the roundings right. darker and darker in there. And now we need to get this nice and sharp. You want that bit of a looking in effect over there. Like that. Okay, now I'm going to use my, I think let's go all the way up to a 6B. I want to get full distance in here. So I've got to get this nice and really, really dark there. Just that little piece. There, and then he quickly fades himself lighter. So let's go back to an HB. We just fade that little bit away there. Okay, now we can use our blue tack and make sure we've got nice sharp highlights. There. So I'm just tapping it like that. And again, if you get your highlight too far, then just use a light. I'm going all the way to an 2H here. And we can push that back. Get that little highlight over there. That little highlight over there. So on each one of these guys. Alright, so let's zoom out and you can see what it looks like. Pretty cool, eh? Alright, so what I want to do now is I'm going to show you how to do the shadow, because that's really important, is getting that shadow right, because without light we won't have a shadow. So let's say zoom in on this area over here. Zoom out over there. And let's go to our photograph for a start. So what happens with shadows is your shadow starts dark against the object, like over here. Can you see it's close to the paper? This piece of the spoon is touching over there, so it's close to the paper. It is blocking off heaps and heaps of light. And then as we come out, more and more light can get in there, and it comes out this way, more and more light can get in, and that means it fades away. So unless you've got a super strong light, this edging over here is never going to be sharp like the edge, like this, like you can see over there. It's never going to be super sharp like you can see on the edge of the spoon. So what you got to do is start off against the spoon, and again, as usual, I'm starting off with my 2H. So start off too light, because what I'm going to do here is just define myself this edge to see where does the shadow actually belong. Let's go to here. And let's pop that back in. So I'm just getting myself a feel for where does this shadow go. And because I'm too light, it's easy for me to adjust the shape. So it's going to come out to there and out here somewhere. So I'm looking for the darkest bits. It comes around here to this side and it seems to come out quite a way, like that. So as the spoon lifts up, this whole shadow actually does this. So I haven't drawn this in or anything, I'm just judging it. And then it fades out in this direction like this. Now because I'm using the lightest, I'm automatically getting my final little shading right as well. So what's cool about starting off and then it comes closer and closer to the back there. So this is now out of camera. Just there for a minute. Because I'm working light, I can now easily go and just adjust. If I haven't got the shadow in 100% the correct place, because I didn't draw him in and I'm judging him in, it's easy for me to go and change it being so light. Now what's really important is that I now be careful not to get any hard edges. So now you can even use your finger just to soften that little edge over there. Just soften him in. And now we can go ahead and start gradually darkening up. So again, I'll start off with the areas where I can see is absolutely darkest. So I'm using an HB pencil now. Feather light touch. I'll fade him out. And this time obviously a little less than the 2H pencil. And now it's quite possible that you'd end up with at some point over here, you're going to end up with a last line where your shadow is just as dark as the actual spoon, and that's fine, don't worry about it. It's normal. If you look carefully on the photograph, you'll see it. That really happens. Taking this guy just maybe a little bit further out just to really accentuate that lifting up effect. Pressing a bit harder now. Okay, now I'll go over to a B pencil. As I can see, it's definitely quite a bit darker over here. Okay, if you find you are losing this line completely, then just come back in and just give it a thinnest little edge. You see, that just defines that edge there. Just bringing this guy out. Make sure he fades away to the sides as we go along. So I may even go back to a 2H just to get this edging right. Now that we've added more tonal value. And then if you find that your shadow is going a little bit too wide or something like that, then just lift him out. So use your blue tack and do something like this. Maybe we did it last week with the tonal chart. Roll him into your sausage and just roll him over the edge. And that also helps just to soften that edge. It's a shading what you're doing there. Like that. See, I feel we can still go a little bit darker over here. Feather light touch again. So I'm using the 2B. Gradually pressing harder and harder to get this little darkest bit of the shadow there. And as we go out, lighter and lighter and lighter. And can you see how nicely it's lifting this spoon up off the table, giving us height. Lovely, eh? Alrighty, I think let's do that. And let's zoom out. See how nicely that shadow lifts the spoon up off the table? Wonderful. Alright. So I'm going to leave it at that for this one. I've gone into quite a lot of depth and detail in this drawing. But it is our first one, so I did need to get you going. So I think for today, we'll call it a day on that. You go ahead and finish your, let's flip over to there. You go ahead and finish your whole drawing. I'll go ahead and finish mine as well. And then please post it on the forum. And of course, if you've got any questions about how to do it, but practice, practice, practice. Especially at this stage, practice the pressure that you're applying with your pencil and practice spotting those tonal values. That is the the key elements for me at the moment. If you can get that right, you're going to draw this spoon, it'll look like a photograph, I promise you. Alright, we'll see you guys next week. Next week we'll do some little bit of feedback on the spoon, same as we did with the bowl this week. then I think we'll draw a nice still life. So we'll build on what we've learned again today. Until then, cheerio, take care.